Welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton, and we are going to talk today about Waterwalk at Central Park, the new park that eventually will wind all the way from Air Power Park to the Bass Pro and Bluebird Gap area. My guest is Donald Whipple. Welcome, Donald.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here again.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this once before, and things were close to being open on some parts, and actually I think right after that, one little piece did open. But if you would just give us an overview about this park and what and why and a little bit of how.
Okay, well, you just mentioned that it extends from Air Power Park to Bass Pro and Bluebird Gap Farm area. So that's kind of what we're calling the first phase overall, and we've broken that into 5 segments just for project management purposes. So residents may hear us talk about segments and things like that, and so just for the ease of conversation today, I'm going to stick with that. So we've got 3 segments that are complete out of the 5. The first one was essentially from the intersection of Pine Chapel and Coliseum up to the plaza, the entrance plaza of the Coliseum. That was essentially in place, and we made some improvements.
Well, the big one there is that now a blocked off, wider pedestrian area, that bridge that goes over the interstate. That was mostly state highway money. It was a safety project, and it is now you're not really so close to the cars as they're whizzing by.
Yeah, no, that's been, even before we did the park master plan, that was a convention visitor bureau want and need for many years.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Ever since the power plant opened.
Hotels on the Bass Pro side, and you're going to the Coliseum or the Convention Center, because that's much easier than trying to park over there, depending on the size of the event. It is much safer now, much safer.
So that portion, we call that segment A, that opened earlier this year. There's still a piece that's not done, but we have an existing sidewalk in place. Once we get far enough along in the Hyatt Place construction, we can go in there and do the wider trail portion.
And you're just not doing that yet because you don't want to be in the way of the construction.
Exactly,
right? Okay.
Yeah. That's all set to go. We just don't want it to get torn up. The other piece, the third part that's opening, we call segment E, is what everyone's probably been seeing from Mercury Boulevard, the elevated walkway.
It is beautiful. I keep walking on it during the construction phase and trying to stay out of the way of the crew, but I've been on it a few times. It is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, the real exciting part about that piece is that it really gets you to a part of the creek, a part of the city that you normally wouldn't ever get to because it extends over wetland areas. And so you kind of get a little bit away from the city, if you will, when you go out on that portion of the trail, and you can really take advantage of the views and the wildlife and that sort of thing.
It is, to me, equivalent to some of the nature walkways, like on the Nolan Trail in Newport News. Actually, I think it's nicer, the wetland part of it. And, in Virginia Beach or at the Virginia Living Museum, where you're just there and you can observe nature. And I just think it's amazing. And it's so accessible. Moms can take kids in strollers. I mean, it is going to be for all ages, I think.
So the 2 last phases, just a quick update on those. From the Coliseum over to what we call the Greenman area. It's the old Greenman estate. It's just on the edge of the east edge, if you will, of the H2O residential development. That's slated to start probably this month sometime. We have a contractor all lined up.
Oh,
and
good.
So,
I knew bids had gone out.
Yep. So that's going to start this month. Probably take about 6 months to get that done. And then the last segment, segment D, which will pick up where that leaves off at the Greenman property and lead over to North Armstead Avenue. And that's actually that's another street project. That's part of a street project. We're straightening out Freeman Drive, which leads from H2O out to North Armstead. That's scheduled to start sometime this fall. And again, probably expect another 6-month construction time frame.
So hopefully by the end of next summer, or by sometime next summer, maybe we'll get it before the end, people will be able to do that whole 2¼ mile and then back. So it'd be a 5-mile hike. Again,
Yep.
I think that's equivalent to, or maybe even a little longer than the Nolan Trail. Just a nice thing for people right there in the center of town, whether you live there in any of those apartments or houses. There's some single-family houses in there, whether you work there and are taking your lunch hour or, you know, a break before or after work. It should be, you know, just a really nice amenity.
Yeah, it definitely will be. That's why it was identified in the Coliseum Central Master Plan. It was really picked out as being an asset, a potential asset that we weren't really taking advantage of. And so it was identified first there, and then we did its own separate master plan just to really flesh out the details of it.
Now, it's been somewhat controversial, and the original master plan, which actually was quite a few years ago now, estimated construction costs at $11 million. And it had more loops, it had nicer service, it was wider in some places. I mean, it would have been a much grander thing. And City Council sort of said, times are tough right now. There's no way that we can do this whole thing. And so you guys, everyone put their heads together and said, what can we do for less and still get a great residential and tourist amenity here?
Yeah, first of all, that $11 million was $2007.
Yeah, so it would have been a lot more now.
Right, and then we hit the recession probably a year after that. So it was really a tough time to really move forward with it. But we've been very fortunate. We mentioned the two street portions, Pine Chapel portion and the Freeman Drive portion. We've been able to put that together with actual road projects, and so we're getting that portion of the trail.
VDOT's paying for a lot of that.
I think that's the Freeman Drive portion's a 50-50 match, and I believe the Pine Chapel Road, that was actually
that was almost 100%.
It was a pedestrian.
We had to pay design or something.
Yeah, it was a pedestrian enhancement.
Safety. It was
fund.
a safety. Yeah.
And so that was, you know, a lot more money for us. Like you just said, we had less to pay on that. And essentially, the Coliseum, taking advantage of the walkway that's been used for years leading up to the Coliseum, was already in place. We just had to do some minimum improvements there. So we're going to get the trail in there altogether for less than that amount. But like you said, there was more things that were planned. And we're actually fortunate to be partnering with the Coliseum Central Business Improvement District. They're actually helping us fund this year and then hopefully in coming years to add park amenities. For instance, we're going to be adding trash receptacles and benches.
Yeah.
And so they're helping us with that.
On a long trail like that, people are going to need to sit down sometimes.
Bicycle racks, and then also pet waste stations as well.
Oh, that's great.
We're sure a lot of people will be walking their pets.
See, I do think of this as walking and jogging, but in truth, it is also for bicycles, strollers, scooters, skateboards. You know, I mean, it's should be a very nice trail.
Yeah, and then eventually, my hope is that we can also get an overall coordinated sign package, both entry, you know, at the entrances, get some signage that has like the map on it.
Yeah.
Mile markers, so if we want to do races or people want to track where they are on the trail.
I'd love to do that. It's like, can I do another quarter mile? Yes.
Wildlife interpretation signs, and there's grants all out there for that we'll certainly pursue. So hopefully we'll be successful in that area. And then what I also would really like to get out there at certain parts of the trail is start getting some artwork out there. It's a great place to display, you know, art, because people can actually, a lot of times you see it on the roadway, you can see it from the car, you know, that's still nice, but it's also, I think, even better to be able to get up close and personal and really see it. So I think that this trail and park will be a good place to showcase some good art.
It is, and in the end, you know, what could have cost a lot more is costing Hampton taxpayers less than $2 million. It's a great way, the way city staff work to get these into VDOT project, to get matching money, and so that other, what does that leave? $2.5 million would have gone to another locality for their Parker Trail, because this is VDOT money reserved to get people off the roads, to help pedestrian facilities, you know, to reduce some. I don't know if we got federal for this, but there's programs designed to facilitate pedestrians to reduce congestion and smog and all things that save VDOT money in the end. So some other locality would have gotten that if we didn't use it for a similar project. So I think it was really genius the way planning worked with Public Works, with council, with everyone really worked together to say, how can we make something happen here that is a true amenity?
Yeah, those funds, there are both at the state and federal level, there are specific funds for pedestrian amenities. And so hopefully we can be successful in getting those funds.
So I do want to say I've read some criticism, on Facebook and other places that this is an ugly area that we're taking people through. I kayak on Newmarket Creek, and it is absolutely amazing. Once you get down at that level and you get away from Mercury Boulevard, for a while, you can kind of see the interstate in the distance, but it is amazingly quiet. And there's wildlife out there that people forget about. What do you know, what you've seen out there?
We've seen deer, rabbits. I'm usually there out in the middle of the day, so there's not a whole lot that you see. Some of those things I've seen early in the morning that I just happen to be out there. But all different types. I'm not an expert at the types and all, but I've seen various amounts of.
I've seen herons. I've seen
waterfowl.
egrets. I've seen red-winged blackbirds. There's a ton of crabs. Down in there, it's moving. The grasses are moving constantly. And when you're up on that walkway, I think you're going to get, if you're quiet. Now, if you bring a toddler, you're not going to see as much.
Right.
But really, it is. A beautiful, peaceful area right there in the middle of, the heart of Hampton's retail district. It's kind of amazing.
It really is a blend of sort of rural and urban, because even though in the more like natural areas, you can still, admittedly, you can still hear the hum of the interstate, nearby. But I think that's kind of part of the uniqueness of it is, you can start out, let's say at Air Power Park and get through the wildlife area, then all of a sudden you're around the corner and you're going to see, the picturesque Coliseum on the lake, and then you're going to come across, all these houses, and then it gets even more urban from there. And vice versa. You can go the other way, and then you're around the corner, and all of a sudden you'll be like, wow, I didn't know this was back here. I'm out in the middle of nowhere.
And the hope is on that more urban area, and of course the part behind the Coliseum is not finished yet. We don't want people going there,
right.
but that part toward Bass Pro could be more of like a Riverwalk type amenity. There could be food trucks, there could be kiosks, especially during big events at the Coliseum. It could be it could be an extra retail and urban and kind of festival atmosphere back there at sometimes.
Right, and if you haven't been out there, a lot of times even staff has forgotten this, that with the power plant development, there is already a generous sidewalk that lines the front of Bass Pro, and it goes all the way to like Cold Stone. So our trail is connecting into that sidewalk. So even though you may think the trail ends there, I keep telling people that it actually ends at the lake.
And there's a lot of parking there too. That's one of the great things too. We're taking advantage of that Bass Pro parking lot. People can start there. There is limited parking at Air and Space Center, which we know.
Which I think during the day, that's going to be fine. It might get kind of crowded on the weekends. We'll see. But
especially with kayak launches, like if you're walking, you're not there for terribly long. But when I go out in the kayak, I do tend to leave my car there for a little while.
But if it becomes a problem, I think that's a good problem, because I think
we'll figure it out.
I think people are going to find once they get out there that they really enjoy it. It's going to get really popular. Everybody talks about Nolan Trail. I think eventually, when we're all said and done and people have been using this,
more convenient.
They're going to be talking about the Waterwalk.
Yeah, I think they will too.
And I think that will be support that's going to help us fund future legs of it and add, even more amenities that'll make it even more special.
Yeah, that should be really nice. So real quickly, let's go back and talk about the event, because I forgot that piece. Saturday, May 12th.
Yep.
A grand opening, ribbon cutting, but it's more than that. It will be, even though the walkway is done, we've been seeding and doing some improvements on the way to getting there now that the construction equipment's not there. So it's really not open till then. It will be the public's first chance to go out on it, but beyond that, Parks and Rec is making it kind of a festival. So from 10 until how long?
2. 10
from
until
10 to 2. What are we going to have?
So we'll start off with a short ribbon cutting ceremony. We'll have some remarks and just talk about, real briefly how we got to where we are today and just have some excitement in cutting the ribbon. Then we'll allow people to go out onto the boardwalk, and we'll have folks there that'll, help. It won't be like formalized tours, but just informal tours leading people out onto the walkway. The festival part we really want to renew interest in Air Power Park as part of this event. And so that museum will be open. All of the exhibits will be out there. There'll be people on hand. I believe that some of the people from the Tuskegee Airmen will be there as well to help with that.
They'll have food trucks and kids events and
band,
music, right? There's a band from the Air Force, I think. So it'll be just a nice, fun atmosphere, great day for the family.
There'll be some exhibitors out there. We'll probably have something, Bike Walk Hampton probably will be out there. They've got a lot of events. This is National Bike Month.
But no bikes that day or during that time when it's crowded.
That time.
After 3, you're welcome to take your bikes out.
Yeah, they have asked that for this particular event, leave the bike at home just because they're expecting, so many people to be on the boardwalk that it might be unsafe. So. But any other time, totally open to bikes.
Okay, and that's all free, except for if you want to buy something from the food trucks.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Donald. Sure. I appreciate it. And thank you for watching. I hope you will get out. If not during the grand opening, sometime fairly soon. It's going to be beautiful this spring and summer to go out on the nature walk part and visit the Air Power Park because it is truly a gem. Thanks for watching.